Right. Okay, well you say there's no solution to the waste, but there is a solution to the waste, and the solution to the waste is to just leave it exactly where it is, and to have somebody look at it for a million years, you know. So they just have to have all these zombies who are there at the moment, sitting there doing nothing, who are going to just have to sit there, and their children are going to sit there, and their children's children and so on, looking at the waste and making sure that it doesn't leak out of the tanks. And if it starts to look like it's going to leak out of the tanks, they build another tank around that tank, and then they build another tank around the tank that they built around that tank, and so on, you know, to infinity. And that is a solution to the waste, because then the waste will just stay where it is now, and it won't get any worse. And if they make more waste, they'll have to put it inside that tank and leave it there. And as far as contaminated land is concerned, and places like Sellafield and all that, they'll just have to put a fence around it and say, this is contaminated land, do not enter. And so that's the best we can do. I mean, it doesn't help to put it down the hole in the ground. I mean, you may as well put it somewhere where you can keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't escape. So that's the solution.
And why not put a hole in the ground?
Ah, well, because then if something goes wrong, you can't do anything about it. That's the point.
And what could go wrong there?
Oh, God, well, loads of things could go wrong. I mean, the main thing that would go wrong is that it's a hole in the ground is not a secured depository, you know? I mean, you put it into a hole in the ground, and then there's a crack in the hole in the ground, or maybe there's an earthquake, or maybe there's a fault that you didn't know about, or maybe there's some water movement that changes over a period of time. And we're talking geological timescale, so, you know, just about everywhere where they've suggested putting it in a hole in the ground has had a geological fault occurring, you know, in the last 1,000 years. Never mind about, you know, the next million years or whatever it is it has for the half-life of these uraniums and plutoniums. So you can't actually guarantee that if you put it in a hole in the ground, something won't go wrong. And you can't pull it out of the hole in the ground. That's the point. I mean, the Forsmark idea is not one in which they put it down in the hole in the ground and then they can take it out if something goes wrong. They can't. They just pop it down and pop the next one down and pop the next one down and so on and send it all down there, and then they seal it all up. But if something goes wrong, then they can't do anything. Whereas if it's where it is at the moment, at Sellafield or wherever it is, above ground or in some kind of big hangar or big kind of area where they kind of look at it, then they can look at it. And if something goes wrong, they've got all their detectors and their Geiger counters and whatnot, then they can just repackage it and put something around it.
But they have to sit there.
Yeah, they have to sit there forever. Absolutely, yeah, sure. Well, it serves them right, isn't it? Shouldn't have made it in the first place. And I've no doubt they'll pay them a lot of money for sitting there. So yeah, they can sit there. I mean, maybe they should have special uniforms, like, you know, guard of the nuclear waste, and they could have like special kind of green uniforms with special badges, like Superman or something, you know. That make them feel good. I've always thought it quite good to have special uniforms. In all the science fiction stories they did special uniforms, you know. So you could say, what's your daddy do? Oh, he's a guard of the nuclear waste. Oh, no. What a useful job, George. Yes, it is, isn't it?
Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is August 14th, 2014. It is Thursday. It's the eve of Friday. Hold on, we're almost there. Alright, let's get to the news. U.S.-Canada, E&E News. TV, mysterious die-off of young salmon in Pacific Northwest. Healthy, and then they die. Heading out to sea, far less plankton than normal. There are too many questions. Researchers now testing for plankton and Fukushima contamination off West Coast. This was on August 6th. Also on August 6th, Alaska. Scientists alarmed by new mystery disease. Pacific Northwest. Alarming changes. Couldn't believe my eyes. Scientists really stumped. It's kind of an alien thing. Gotten much worse. A horror show could wreak havoc on entire ecosystems from Mexico to Alaska. Wow. Okay. Also, E&E News, Energy News. Today, scientists Fukushima. Radiation is causing serious biological effects. Disasters, widespread impact now being revealed. Major irreversible shifts in ecosystems discussed. High rates of abnormality and mortality. Severe damage to humans next. Yesterday, Japan TV. Injecting water into Fukushima reactor accelerated meltdown. Nuclear fuel rods had reaction generating large amounts of heat. Restricted data. Monitoring posts measured nearly 1 million microsieverts per hour within hours. Radiation dose spiked 30,000% far away from plant. 30,000%. Wow. Oh, here's one from August 11th. 200 quadrillion becquerels per kilogram in fuel rod materials found near Tokyo. The materials spread globally. Composed major part of worst Fukushima plume. Persists for a long time in living organisms. Must consider disaster's health effects. August 12th. Government expert Fukushima hot particles can't be dissolved, even with hot nitric acid. Huge amounts of fallout are still bound to organic material. We have very little knowledge about this. Reaction is irreversible. Yesterday, plutonium detected underground in Fukushima reactor. Test results not revealed publicly for almost a year after sampling date. Officials plan to pump up groundwater from same well it was found in and dumped it into Pacific Ocean. Now, I just have a question. My question is, if we keep dumping stuff, your plutonium or whatever it is, you keep dumping stuff into the ocean, is it going to change the buoyancy effect on like boats? Is everything, are you going to end up, everything will not float sooner or later because of what you're mixing into the water? Does anyone know that out there? Have any idea about that question I'm asking? How about you scientists out there? If you keep putting in heavy metals, radioactive heavy metals, into the ocean, is it going to change the buoyancy of the water? Meaning, ergo, you have a plane, you have a boat, and then you take off from the boat and it just sinks. Aren't there places like that already, like the Bermuda Triangle, because of whatever's left underneath the ground there from a previous culture, civilization? So you keep dumping that in the ocean, and we'll see how long the boats will float. All right? That's the thought of mine. Prove me wrong. Alrighty then. Moving on with the news. The Extinction Protocol 2012 and beyond. Ebola in Ghana. 2 Libyans show signs of Ebola infection in Kasoa. Ebola deaths skyrocket, 56 dead in 2 days, total cases near 2,000 mark. Also, residents call massive mine spill in British Columbia, Canada, an environmental disaster. Alrighty then. Alright, Cat. Let's see if we can get over to the watchers watching the world. Let's see if we can get over there real quick. Looks like it didn't come up. Alright, let's see if we can get into the watchers watching the world. Insight into one of the closest supernovas discovered in decades. Oh. Stardust payloads hold first potential interstellar space particles. Also, environmental disaster for years to come. Massive breach of toxic waste pond at, let's see if we can get into that, Mount, and then it's cuts off, of course. Well, we have a problem with the Watchers. I believe it's actually the Watchers. Isn't that out of the Middle East, or am I wrong about that? Alrighty then. Oh, there's a cat. Who's that? Is that you, Charlize? Is that you? There's the new kitty. Alrighty then. Yeah, Watcher stopped responding all of a sudden. Sorry about that. Alrighty then. Cats and dogs are running around. So, also, very interesting. I've been watching things and posting as much as I can on different things going on. And, of course, the death of actor Robin Williams, which was shocking. Except for that there was, I guess, a Family Guy episode that aired supposedly minutes before that had to do with Robin Williams and I guess Peter, or whatever the story. Peter kept touching things like Midas, and they would all, and people would turn into Robin Williams, and then he tried to commit suicide and failed. Very strange. Are there really any coincidences, or we just don't understand what's going on? One Diana theory is, I don't know, maybe somewhere in the future someone's trying to warn people about certain things, so they interject, somehow they're able to interject certain things. And I think it's like some time traveler may be doing that. So that you see these precursor things and you take notice and take heed, but they're not allowed to totally intervene with this, with the prime directive or something. Alrighty then. Also, shout out to Carl in Florida. Shout out to Carl. Also, another thing I just thought of. Okay, didn't David Carradine supposedly commit suicide? Hung himself in a hotel by a belt, but his hands were tied behind his back, and somehow the mainstream media thought that was suicide. Then I hear again now about a belt. Do we know what type of belt Robin Williams tried to hang himself with? Is it the same type of belt that David Carradine supposedly hung himself with? Who's the maker of that belt? Who's the manufacturer? Where'd that belt come from? I find it very strange, people trying to hang themselves with a belt when there's so much easier ways to do something like that. It doesn't make sense to me. I like to know about the belt. Maybe I've watched too much CSI, Murder, She Wrote, Columbo. I'd like to know more information on the belt that he supposedly used. If it's the same kind of belt, maybe David Carradine supposedly used. Alrighty then. Just a thought. I thought it was very strange. You know, I don't think you really hear about a bunch of people trying to off themselves doing it that way. Then you got some kind of episode. Then you got the Truther Girls channel saying that there's been some posts previous to his death talking about if people are preparing for his death. I don't understand that. So, I don't know. My major thing is, I want to know more about the belt. Was it his belt? Was it some strange belt that showed up? Was there a suicide note? Was there a suicide note to all his fans out there? It's just very bizarre. That's what I say. But the key in this is the belt. Alrighty then, that's what I think, but I don't know. just a thought. Alrighty then, because I heard so many conflicting reports even when it first broke and where he was found. Why wouldn't you know right away what it was? If he was in a chair, I thought he was on the floor. He's hanging from the doorway. I don't care how big the house was. Why wouldn't you hear that? When people try to do stuff like that, when they be kicking and moving around, something very strange about all this. Alrighty then, these strange days, strange occurrences. Check out the belt. That's what I say. I want more information on that belt. Alright. Alrighty then. May he rest in peace. It is now 4 days down the eve of Friday. 1 to go before the weekend. Please be safe. Be prepared for anything. Also be prepared for all kinds of stuff going on, especially on the West Coast where Fukushima just, it's all over the country, but I think they're very heavily hit with radiation, and it's ongoing. So I think we're going to see all kinds of strange, especially if you're famous. They're not going to be able to hide it, are they? Alrighty then. Take care, be prepared for anything. I'll see you tomorrow on the flip side. Just be prepared for anything.
This is what happens when the police take things into their own hands and shoot people for no reason in the head. This is no good. This is Tottenham. This has been going for 2 days. 2 days. They're going to have to understand they cannot go around shooting people for no reason. There was other ways to do this, but this is going to happen, and it's going to happen in 2 days. And the people are fighting back, and they will fight back, and they will fight back for a very long time. This is not the end. This is not the end. Believe me, this will carry on for a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Who cares? The police have got to learn they cannot get away with this sort of stuff, and this is what's going to happen.